Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday. It is March 28th, the day after UFC 260. I'm Edward Carbajal here for MMAnews.com. This is your Sunday submission, uh, going over the events of UFC 260 from the 7 takeaways piece that I do over at MMAnews.com. Make sure, if you're not following the MMAnews.com YouTube channel, make sure you click the like button, bell notification, so you can get all the notifications for all the stuff like this that lives there on the MMAnews.com YouTube channel. We have interviews with Jack Hermanson, Rob Font, Emmanuel Sanchez for the upcoming Bellator event. So if you're not following them, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get stuff like that and stuff like this, where these Sunday submission videos usually live. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Carbazal, so you can check out all my other content and stuff I do covering the sport of mixed martial arts. Without further ado, pretty big night last night, so let's get right into it. UFC 260. What a night. I'm not for nothing. I love the pacing of it. I know we lost a few fights. It happened with everything going on with COVID and everything like that. But I mean, for me to have I think the main event was done by 1 a.m. Eastern time, so that's an early night for us folks that usually up till 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, especially when you're covering the sport like we do over at MMAnews.com. So let's get into it and look at what we have to go over as fight week began. So if you're looking back at the fight week, one of the things, UFC 259 was fortunate enough to not get messed up by any rare nowadays, to not lose a fight or whatever. But unfortunately, that's not a trend that's stuck. We lost the co-main event. Obviously, you guys know about. We talked about it last week. Volkanovski versus Ortega. They're postponing that. Then later in the week, since the last Sunday submission, Hannah Goldie, Jessica Penny, Juana Pinheiro, Ronda Marcos all had to be rescheduled for later days due to COVID protocols. And then William Knight was removed from his bout against Alonzo Menafield, but that fight was saved with Fabio Chiron coming in last minute. And if you didn't catch that fight in particular, that was like the headliner for the prelims. Menafield caught Chiron with it's a shoulder choke. A lot of folks called the Von Flue choke because of that's the first time it was like seen all over on TV, which is the counter to someone that goes for a guillotine and they don't let go. Once you're past their legs and they're on top of you on the ground. Great finish. The reason why I really liked it is because I literally just taught that class to a few of our new members over at the jiu-jitsu school I train at here in New Jersey. So I'm looking forward to getting the feedback off of that. They're all youngsters, so they're all on Instagram and not on Twitter, where I could have, gotten some praise for that. But I mean, we're not in this for the praise, but I mean, you can't help but feel good when you see something like that. That's still tried and true practice. Even Daniel Cormier and Joe Rogan were remarking during the broadcast how like he needed to let go of that headlock, and didn't happen. But yeah, his fight was saved. Those were the things that were fights that were postponed, removed because due to COVID protocols. Raises questions about what they're going to do when they move on to their next. Because that was the UFC 260 was the last event at the Apex, so you got to wonder what's going to happen, as they move forward with trying to get into arenas and selling out, or do based on the capacities allowable sellout events. So it is what it is. But let's move on to when the fights actually started. I know I already addressed some things. It's that the Menafield finish is not in the 7 takeaways piece because obviously there's some things that stood out more to me. I'm sure there's stuff that you probably wish was included in this, but I'm limited to 7, so give me a break. But I wrote about this thing about Jaron Vallel's odd stoppage. Unfortunately, this clip doesn't show the the length of this ground and pound. I'm gonna play it here. Take out the sound so we don't get any copyright hits. But this is the end of. He was on him for. I mean, some folks were saying almost 2 minutes or whatever. When I heard Jaron Vallel was refereeing this match, I was kind of like, I'm always concerned, and I can't remember. It might have been a Mark Munoz's fight. By all means, drop it in the comments and stuff. There was a fight where someone got choked out, and Jaron Vallel literally just looked the guy in the eyes and let I think it was the fighter that had to tell him, like, he's out. I mean, we've seen it before, but this is one of those things where, like, you want to see guys as positions with officials that actually, it wouldn't do them any harm to train and feel some of these moves so that they know the indicators of when something is, and I know, listen, it's easy to sit home, and I say this a lot. It's easy to sit home and criticize, folks when you're watching at home or whatever. But even during the commentary, Cormier and Rogan and Anik were all kind of like, maybe it's time to throw in the towel or stop it, because of how long it went. And I wasn't the only one that voiced their concern about Jaron Vallel's officiating. This was the first fight of the night, and it was the only fight that he was on deck for. So you have to wonder where that decision comes from. Maybe it's due to his inexperience. I mean, he's been around for a while. I mean, but folks criticizing Herb Dean. I forget the other dude, Smith, who also I believe was refereeing at the Apex last night. But this one is kind of like, I just rewatched it too before I decided to do this. And it's one of those situations where it's like, okay, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, especially if you're a referee. As I was watching and listening, his opponent, Zaitir, I don't want to mess up his name. Zaitir, I mean, there was points where, and you don't see it in that clip, but there's points where Vallel is kind of like, I need you to move, and he says, I'm going to move. And then he actually does try to do some barrel rolls and stuff like that, where he traps Barriol's arm and tries to reverse the position. So he was doing something, but it was still one of those situations where it's just like, you start associating certain officials with certain situations that you've seen them kind of like have a part in more than once. So, I mean, again, I'm writing this as the event's going on. So, I mean, I even put in the last sentence what I just mentioned in his defense, but it's still one of those things where you have to you just have to be concerned about like, I don't know if it's a point of complacency from the referee's part. They have been on deck almost every weekend for the Apex, and it's not just, for folks that don't know, they don't just show up on fight night and ref. Like, there's a whole rules thing they have to go over, and their training and reminders and stuff like that. And then there's always a rules meeting with fighters after they weigh in to make sure everybody's on the same page. So it's not just on the fly, but it's hard to. I mean, again, it's not on the fly, but when you're looking at something like fighting, from all points, from both competitors and the third man in the ring or cage, it's one of those situations where it is kind of you have to be on the fly, and to make those kind of decisions in that small amount of time, that there should be a lot of training and refresher training and stuff like that. So it is what it is. I remember the water this Sunday. Keep my throat nice and moist. All right, so let's move on. Again, for the flyweights, this was a great fight. I thought it was a great fight because of the back and forth. Miranda Maverick versus Jillian Robertson. It was Maverick's only her second fight in the UFC, but I mean, for folks not knowing who she is, after last night, you probably definitely have her on her your radar. She did win the Phoenix FC series. the the flyweight tournament that they did, and that's one of the things that lets you know, like, she's definitely not out of place amongst the elite UFC flyweights. The fight between her and Robertson tried to do her best jiu-jitsu to counter her Mavericks wrestling. Excuse me. But she showed, especially in the second round, excuse me, when Robertson got behind her and did like the back take to get her to the ground and was attacking, her composure and patience that she showed to get out of that position and eventually get up to the feet, and at the end of that round was pretty well done. You got to be impressed with trying to light myself a little bit here. You got to be impressed with the way she handled that, and I feel like it'll only be a matter of time before she moves up. I mean, when you look at the people that are holding the belts at the end of these divisions, you better come correct, as we saw. I mean, we're going, obviously we're going to get to the main event, as we saw. This was Ngannou's second time, coming to the chance at becoming a champion, and obviously it worked out for him, but it's not through. It wasn't without having to correct a few things. Speaking of corrections, the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley, again, he got a pretty good win against Thomas Almeida. I called this takeaway Sugar Show belated because he got that. There's I do believe I linked to it. I did link to it, but I don't want to change the tabs. But so there's a premature. It's in the article, though. You can click on it. He celebrated prematurely at the beginning of the round when he almost put Almeida away, and credit to Almeida for taking the damage that he took before for the fight to go on and then get the eventual finish that we saw here with the KO. I mean, that's right at the end. He dropped him with a inside hook, and as he fell down, he came in and finished the job. It was definitely a KO, and this wasn't premature because it was finished. And there was a lot of times where Almeida was hurt, so it was kind of good for it was a good showing for Almeida because it showed how he can recover and be a little calmer and stuff against somebody like O'Malley, and he did the leg kicks and stuff. I'm wondering how healthy O'Malley's leg is. I know we saw him jump around and stuff after that, but there was also some moments where he looked like he was his ankle was still giving him some issues. Not in was it the first round? I think it was in the second round. And Almeida was definitely focused on his legs to try to do that. But I mean, I wrote something a while back over on Medium. I might have to include it in my one of the newsletters that I just started doing. But that the O'Malley's body type for MMA, if you look at guys that are lanky and wiry like that, I might have even said it here before. They're definitely dangerous, especially when they come at. I mean, he's a great grappler. We already know that. He's competed in quintet and stuff like that. But obviously his striking is with the reach and power that he seems to be able to generate, especially the way he sets stuff up. Maybe it's not even the power. It's probably just the way that he's able to catch dudes with stuff. O'Malley's definitely back in the win column, and I think after coming off of the loss, and he's had the issues with his injuries, this was a nice test for him to kind of reestablish himself. Because you always hear that saying about guys that are winning and guys that are, when they lose, how fans kind of brush them off, but definitely a one way to kind of verify, like even Sean O'Malley's proven if he picks up a loss, he can come back and he's not going to carry it with him and going to the later rounds. He obviously probably learned a lesson not to celebrate prematurely in this fight, and for all the showmanship we saw here, not for nothing, the good thing about it is that he also he gave Almeida his credit and wasn't a dick about the win either. Talked about how tough he was and stuff like that. So, for a young guy too, climbing up and building his brand in the UFC, he's definitely, we're seeing him evolve too in other parts of the sport. So, all the antics and stuff on social media and the interviews and the weird stuff that happens outside of that, it's great for building his personal brand. But at the end of the day, it's the wins that count, and we're seeing him evolve where it counts as a martial artist. I've said this about him before on the podcast that I do, because you see the colored hair and the whole Tekashi 6ix9ine thing vibe that he's got or whatever it is. But when it comes to fighting at this level, that's where he's still proving himself that yes, he belonged and he's legit. So, take that with a grain of salt. I know everybody has their opinions on folks that have a gimmick per se, but he's at the end of the day, he's a great fighter still. Let's move on to the co-main event, which I think folks were expecting it to go on a little longer, because it was Tyron Woodley versus Vicente Luque. Listen, I want to give Tyron Woodley credit where his credit is due, because for all the criticism he was getting, picking up his losses and stuff like that, he came out like he wanted to win, came out ready to fight, hurt Vicente Luque. Obviously Luque is not going to lie down for him either. So he countered what we saw, right? Countered the damage that Woodley did, hurt Woodley back, and Woodley still was trying to fire back. It was a crazy round, how the submission came to be. He got that Darce choke on him. Obviously, Luque wins by Darce. It's a nice feather in his cap to get a submission over a former champion. But watching that, I was kind of like, this is where you see like Woodley was still in the fight. It was unfortunate that he landed against the fence, because when you get the Darce choke, there was a point where and Luque even acknowledged it in his post-fight interview, where Woodley's corner was saying, the escape to this, and he was doing it, but because they wound up against the fence, Woodley couldn't back his hips away. The fence actually stopped him and helped Luque lock up his legs to make that choke tighter. Luque was talking about the squeeze, but it's not just the squeeze; it's also keeping the guy compressed. Like if you're straight and your body's straight and the Darce choke is in, then you kind of relieve some of the pressure from the choke. It helps to thin out your stuff when you can make yourself long. Where the choke is happening, it's between the arm and you're using the shoulder to tap the carotid arteries and stuff like that. So Woodley was doing that, but and Woodley's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so he definitely knows how to get out of that. But again, that fence was in the way. I know he was hurt. He was probably, the cobwebs were still there, but it was a legit win for Luque. But I'm not going to dismiss Woodley's focus on the sport anymore. I know I was kind of doing that in the past, and in the predictions piece that I submitted to MMAnews.com, I mentioned it. But even though he lost, I'm confident in saying that Tyron Woodley's focus is back in the game, because he came out like he wanted to win. Firing back like that, he literally kind of threw caution to the wind. To me, he made a statement, and I know not a lot of folks will agree, because he lost or whatever. But you can make a statement, and by what you put out there, especially in the fight game, you got to give these guys credit where credit is due. So it sucks that he's collecting these losses, but I was impressed with the. I definitely think Woodley has reset his focus. Hopefully, this loss doesn't make him. It's not like these guys aren't used to losing before, but too many in a row can start to mess with where they're going. But I saw a hungry Woodley. He definitely tried. So credit where credit is due, and shout out to Luque too for doing it. I know he called out Nate Diaz and stuff after that. That's like, but it's still, like I said, a nice feather in his cap. Excuse me. For Luque to get a win over a former champ like that, and then Francis Ngannou, obviously, what's on everybody talking about on Sunday morning, new heavyweight champion. Lands his power on Miocic. He made the adjustments to climb the ranks in heavyweight. Didn't find himself in the main event against Miocic, who derailed his hype train originally. Um, it was a great win for him. Now, here the last two takeaways. Obviously, you see here with the undisputed with Ngannou. Congratulations to him. But this is a UFC, and in the past we've seen what happens when Miocic loses and the UFC has other fights to make, especially at heavyweight, because baddest man on the planet, heavyweight champion of the world, mixed martial arts fighting, which is the closest to true fighting as we can get. So the heavyweight champion UFC is the baddest man on the planet. That is Francis Ngannou now. So I mean, you can only replay the same fight. This was a rematch, and so they're 1-1 against each other, Ngannou and Miocic. Definitely grounds for a rematch. But when we see how the UFC will put it's the fight fans want to see. Yes, Miocic is definitely deserving of a rematch. He should get it. But we've seen in the past, like when he lost to Cormier, they made him wait a year for that rematch. They let Cormier and defend, fight other fighters that made more sense, because fans wanted to see these other fights, and you can only run things back so many times before folks kind of, I don't want to say they get bored of it, but it's like a rerun. They don't want to see it again. You got to sometimes does have to pass in between too. So I understand the marketing point on the UFC's side. And this right here, which is the final takeaway, John Jones, when that happened, tweeted, "Show me the money." You can see the tweet there in the article. And the thing is, John Jones is moving to heavyweight for a reason. He's packed on a lot of mass. He's got to adjust the way he trains, he moves, and stuff like that. I mean, I would imagine. I mean, it must be. You saw it with Stipe Miocic too, with the 30-pound difference. If you want to be a fast heavyweight, it's going to be hard for you to be the heavier man. That 30 pounds probably, I don't want. There's a lot of factors. You looked at Daniel Cormier talked about it before the broadcast. The smaller cage might have been an issue, so the faster, lighter Stipe Miocic couldn't capitalize on the potential fatigue that could have come for Ngannou had this gone all 5 rounds. Rogan also commented on how bigger muscles need more oxygen, which is very true when it comes to fighting. Which is why, like, if you look at like back in the day boxing, where two heavyweights just kind of laid on each other and fired away, you don't see that with the more leaner heavyweights. When you're looking at like Wilder, Fury 1 and 2. What else is a good example? Like Anthony Joshua, they move a little better for their size because they're carrying the least amount to be a heavyweight, but still be a heavyweight. You know what I mean? So that might have been a factor too. So of course you want to see that, but then you see the natural gifted combat sports athlete that John Jones is moving into a new weight class where there's new dangers for him and question marks. Because he's been the king of the light heavyweight division for 10, 11 years now. I forget when he won what year he won the title from Hua Shogun. So, here in Newark, New Jersey. So it's one of those things where it's like, yes, we have to see those questions be answered. So of course that's going to put a lot of eyeballs on the UFC heavyweight division, and that's the fight to make. It's funny, in the post-fight press conference, Dana White was saying, like, because they asked him about this tweet, "Show me the money," and then Dana White said, "You can say you want to fight somebody, but do you really want to?" And he kind of hinted at, like, if I'm John Jones, I move back to 185, or I start making move to 85, like to kind of still sell us on the Israel Adesanya Jones match. But John Jones is already put. I mean, you can't ask him to put on all this weight and then go lighter than he's used to going to because this Adesanya Jones fight is I guess sort of still there. To me, it's not. To me, I want to see Jones at heavyweight. Remember with the fight we never got, right? Rumble Johnson versus John Jones. That was a fight we were licking our chops at, and we never got it. And the reason being is because we want to see John Jones fight so these guys with the power, knockout power, that's like that from hell. You know what I mean? Like one punch is all you need is one punch to end the fight. And Ngannou's that guy now in the UFC. Because we know Rumble's over at Bellator now. But Ngannou's that guy now in the UFC. John Jones is around, is working to make heavyweight. So that is a fight we want to see. So maybe and I saw some stuff on Twitter this morning that's saying like even when you look at the money that Conor seems to get versus John Jones, with the defenses he's been making. I mean, I know his problems are probably the arguments against paying him what pay him what he's worth. And then I know Dana White said the last time he talked about money with him is because he wanted stuff like Wilder Fury money, which is like, I mean, come on now, not for nothing. With everything going on, what's wrong with paying him Wilder Fury money, right? I mean, you're gonna with the what is it, the fighters only get like 18% of the UFC's gross anyway. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a businessman. I'm sitting here with my geese stuff hanging and drying in the background. My apologies for that. But you know what I mean? Like I kind of get both sides of it, but I mean, this is worth the investment. Pay John Jones whatever he's asking for. Let's see this fight. And imagine if he wins, then you can't really argue against like how good he is. But again, yeah, I know his history is probably what's making everyone cautious. I mean, UFC 200, like 3 days out that he gets pulled from the fight. But we need to see that question answered. I mean, I want to see, this is me personally, obviously I'm not speaking for MMAnews.com. This is my own opinion. Personally, I'd like to see Jones and Ngannou. You know what I mean? Before Adesanya Jones, especially after we saw how Adesanya did when he moved up to light heavyweight. So I don't know. I'm wrong. I'm not as well connected into the what the fans want as I think I am anyway. As much as I try to follow stuff on Twitter because they showed Megan Fox and one of the Kardashians with two dudes that I had no idea. I know one was Machine Gun Kelly and the other one was some drummer. I only found out by seeing those questions answered. I didn't know who those people were when they showed that during the pay-per-view last night. So what do I know? I'm an old man. I'm a grumpy old person in New Jersey. So, but that's what I would like to see. And I don't know. There's more to take away from the event, obviously. Speaking of this, John Jones has not stopped tweeting because he took some offense to Dana White's comments. I guess hinting at calling him scared or telling him to move to 85 when he's been trying to pack on some mass to compete at heavyweight. So it's almost like them saying no to we're not going to give you the money we want. So I can't blame him for that. But yeah, I think when you look at, listen, we're still in the pandemic. And you don't want to put out too many what's the word I'm looking for? You don't want to put out too many like floppy pay-per-views. Like you're going to justify this $80 price tag through plus your paywall with ESPN Plus. You need to start giving us if you expect folks to pay that money, then you might want to start listening to put out a poll to give the fans what they want. I don't know, man. Again, I was impressed with UFC 260 overall. We're coming at the end of March, so April's around the corner. UFC on ABC's on deck. UFC 261. Lots of stuff coming up. Make sure you check out the interviews over at the MMAnews.com YouTube channel. Thumbs up. Click the bell notification so you can we got more stuff coming. As I'm told by our master interviewer, James Lynch. So keep an eye out for that. I'm looking forward to whatever's coming next, especially when it comes to the heavyweight division. Now, I really do hope we get Ngannou Jones over. I mean, do you really want to see Derek Lewis and it looked like Dana White wanted to see Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's two power punchers, but didn't they have a fight that people weren't too impressed with not so long ago? So has Ngannou evolved? That we saw him his wrestling evolved because he stuffed a Stipe's takedown attempt, so that was good. But then you had to worry about if that left hook didn't land that drop Stipe, you have to wonder if defending takedowns like that would wear on his cardio. But with the Apex cage, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered there. But those will be answered in whomever his title defense comes against next, right? That's it for my time here for MMAnews.com. Again, make sure you check out the website. Give me a follow on Twitter. And thank you so much for those that watch this when I put it on the Periscope. That's it. Happy Sunday. I'm tapping out.